Can we give God one more hand clap of praise for bringing us over every mountain? Oh, Jesus. Praise God. Glory be to God. For this. Good morning, Beulah. Good morning, Beulah. Let me just tell you, I am so excited to be home with you. Let's go to work. Our text for today will be 2 Samuel chapter 9, starting at verse 3 through 10, then we'll look at verse 13. And it reads, Then the king said, Is there not still someone of the house of Saul to whom I can show the kindness of God? And Ziba said to the king, There is still a son of Jonathan who is lame in his feet. So the king said to him, Where is he? And Ziba said to the king, Indeed, he is in the house of Machir, the son of Amiel, in Lodebar. Then King David sent and brought him out of the house of Machir, the son of Amiel, from Lodebar. Now, when Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, had come to David, he fell on his face and prostrated himself. And then David said, Mephibosheth. And he answered, Here is your servant. So David said to him, Do not fear, for I will surely show you kindness for Jonathan your father's sake, and will you to all the land of Saul, your grandfather, and you shall eat bread at my table. When? Continually. Then he bowed himself and said, What is your servant that you should look upon such a dead dog as I? And the king called to Ziba, Saul's servant, and said to him, I have given to your master's son all that belonged to Saul and to all his house. You therefore and your sons and your servants shall work in the land for him, and you shall bring the harvest, that your master's son may have food to eat. But Mephibosheth, your master's son, shall eat bread at my table always. Now Ziba has 15 sons and 20 servants. Then verse 13 says, So Mephibosheth dwelt in Jerusalem, and he ate continually at the king's table, and he was lame in both his feet. Well, if we were to tag this with a title, do me a favor. I want you to look at your neighbor, say, Neighbor, I don't know if this applies to you, but it certainly applies to me. Because whether I like it or not, I almost stopped here. A few weeks ago, I was talking to one of my students after his graduation. We were celebrating what should have been one of the happiest moments of his life. But in the middle of that conversation, he quietly said something that arrested my attention. He looked at me and said, "Dr. Gipson, I think this might just be my life." For a moment, I had no idea what he was talking about because he wasn't talking about graduation and he wasn't talking about the next steps of his future. But what he was talking about was where he was mentally and emotionally. Not because he was happy or content, but because he had been carrying something so heavy and for so long that he had stopped expecting anything to change. That conversation stayed with me for a while. And I thought about it because over the years I learned that people can get used to almost anything. We can get used to disappointment. We can get used to dysfunction. We can get used to surviving. We can get used to carrying pain for so long that eventually we stop believing life could look different at all. The psychologist Martin Seligman described this phenomenon as something called learned helplessness. Learned helplessness is the idea that after enough closed doors, after enough failures, after enough hurt, after enough disappointment, people eventually stop expecting life to get better. Moreover, the CDC recently reported that 4 out of every 10 high school students are experiencing persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness, and 1 out of every 5 seriously considered suicide. And let's think about that for a moment. 4 out of 10, 1 out of 5. And if we drill a little closer to home, communities across Georgia, including DeKalb County, where we're currently sitting, continue to invest in heavy youth mental health services because anxiety, depression, violence, grief, fear, and trauma continue to affect so many of our young people. Counselors in schools are trying to respond. Churches and families are trying to respond because these are not just somebody else's kids. These are our kids. These are our students, our classmates, our nieces, our nephews, our grandchildren. And if we're honest this morning, many adults aren't doing too much better. See, we've learned how to become experts at hiding it. We've learned how to smile while struggling. We've learned how to worship while wounded. We've learned how to work while being weary. We've learned how to suffer silently while we're serving. And if I'm going to be completely honest and transparent with you this morning, there have been chapters in my own life where things didn't unfold exactly how I thought they would. There were doors that I expected God to open that never opened. There were opportunities that I thought were mine that never materialized. There were prayers that seemed to take much longer to answer than I thought they should. And there were seasons where I found myself in tears saying, "Lord, how did we get here? Lord, what about me? Lord, did you forget about me?" But you know what? My discernment tells me that I'm not the only one up in this sanctuary, the only one in this room, the only one watching online that ever had these questions. I think I'm preaching to every person in the room who's tired of being the strong one all the time. I'm talking to somebody who's tired of acting like everything is okay and nothing bothers you. I'm talking to somebody who looks like everything's okay and life is hurting you and nothing is affecting you. Nothing ever gets to you, but everything gets to you. I'm talking to the person you smiled while your heart was breaking. You've carried everybody else while nobody carried you. But somehow through it all, you kept saying, God, not my will, but God, yours be done. God, not my will, but God, yours be done. God, not my will, but yours be done. I'm coming for someone that knows what it feels like to be disappointed, to be discouraged, to be overlooked, to be rejected, to be weary. I'm talking to somebody who keeps showing up with a smile, but you're running on empty. Hoping things will change, but they never seem to change. I'm talking to someone who knows what it's like to keep moving while emotionally standing still. I'm talking to someone who knows what it's like to be the first one to go to college, but you're still trying to carry everybody else's expectations, and you're still trying to carry the weight of everybody else. I'm talking to someone that has lost their dreams because survival has become more urgent than your own purpose. Somebody has understood my statement a moment ago, because somebody else besides me has been to the place where you said, God, have you forgotten about me? God, what about me? God, how did I even get here? There are some young people in the room carrying pressures that their parents don't even know about. Pressures to fit in, pressure to belong, pressure to be accepted, pressure to prove yourself, pressure to act like you're okay and you're not, pressure to carry anxiety, insecurity, loneliness, and fear while posting on TikTok and IG that makes everybody think your life is perfect, and you got to the place that you're tired and you almost stopped. But guess what? I came all the way from Washington, D.C. to 2340 Clifton Springs Road, Decatur, Georgia, the place where God is helping you God helps you get where you need to be. To tell somebody the chapter that you almost stopped in was not strong enough to finish you, and the chapter that almost broke you wasn't strong enough to end you. The chapter that you almost stopped in was not strong enough to finish you. And the chapter that almost broke you was not strong enough to end you. Why, preacher? How did you know that? Because after all you've been through, after all the stuff you've been through, after all the pain you've been through, after all the tears you've been through, guess what? You're still here. You're still here. Can somebody just say, thank God I'm still here. Thank God you love me, I'm still here. They lied on me, but I'm still here. They talked about me, but I'm still here. They overlooked me, they mistreated me, but I'm still. Because his eye is on a sparrow, and I know he's watching me because I'm still. Oh, as we journey along, and that's where we meet this crippled man with a limp. This where we meet this man that was lame in his feet, a man by the name of Mephibosheth. Everybody say Mephibosheth. Now, if we're going to understand why his story is so powerful, we have to meet Mephibosheth before we meet his pain. Before he was a broken man, he was a little boy. Before we learn where he lives, we must know he once lived in a palace. Before he was known for his limp, he was known for his lineage. He was the grandson of King Saul and the son of David. He had royal blood flowing through his veins. He was not born in poverty. He was not born forgotten, and he was not born overlooked, but he was born with promise and opportunity. In fact, if anyone should have been living in the palace at the time of our text, it should have been Mephibosheth. But when we do arrive to our text, David is living in the palace that should have belonged to him. David is sitting on the throne that's by birthright that should have been his. And we also, when we arrive here, we see Mephibosheth is not living in the palace. He's living in a place called Lodebar. Lodebar is a place of no pasture, a place of no communication, a place of no flourishing, no opportunity, no abundance. And whether we focus on the literal geography of the place or the symbolic role of the story, there's one thing gets clear. Lodebar is the complete opposite of the palace. Lodebar is a place of survival instead of promise. It's a place of scarcity instead of abundance. It's a place of silence instead of expectation. And honestly, Lodebar isn't just a place on the map. See, it's a place where people learn how to survive instead of live. It's a place where disappointment becomes familiar. It's a place where you've cried and you've been disappointed so long, and eventually you stop talking and stop expecting. It's a place where you've been hurt for so long that you stop reaching. It's a place that you just learn how to exist, but you forget how to dream. And before anybody in the room or online begin to judge Mephibosheth's location this morning, if we're honest, some of us knows exactly where Lodebar is. Some of us have lived there. Some of us have vacationed there. And some of us even walked in the room coming from there today. Because nobody ends up in Lodebar because they want to be there. Nobody ends up in Lodebar because everything is going well. You end up in Lodebar when life has knocked the wind out of you and you're trying to survive. But watch this. The tragedy is that when people meet you in Lodebar, they often judge you by where they found you. Oh, he is lazy. Oh, she is unmotivated. He is angry. He is difficult. She is broken. And if we're not careful, what's supposed to be a temporary chapter can become a permanent location. So that raises the obvious question, how does a prince end up in Lodebar? How does someone born for the palace end up hiding in a forgotten place and surviving in the ghetto called Lodebar? Well, to answer that question, we have to go back a few chapters, because the Bible tells us that King Saul and Jonathan were killed in battle, and the kingdom was thrown into chaos. Panic filled the palace because in the ancient world, whenever one king died and another king rose to power, surviving members of the previous king's family were often viewed as political threats. So it was not uncommon for a new dynasty to eliminate the remaining heirs to secure the throne. That historical background and context helps us understand why everyone is running in chaos in the palace. Well, in the middle of all this confusion, the nurse who was caring for, at this time, baby Mephibosheth, and she picked up this frightened baby boy, and she started running for her life. Now, don't miss this. She picked him up because she loved him. She picked him up because she was trying to protect him. She picked him up because she was trying to save his life and preserve his future. But while she was running in terror and while she was running in haste, she made it out, but he didn't. Well, how did she make it out? And she was running with the baby that she picked up. Well, she made it out, and he didn't because she dropped him. Can you imagine dropping a child? Can you imagine dropping a baby? Oh my God, I'm getting chills thinking about dropping a baby. Somebody dropped the prince. Somebody dropped the future king. Somebody dropped Jonathan's son. Somebody dropped King Saul's grandson. And he was never the same. His feet was permanently damaged. His future was unexpectedly altered. His life had unfortunately changed. And what makes Mephibosheth's story even more painful is that the fall wasn't even his fault. He didn't make a bad decision. He didn't rebel against God. He didn't ask for this. He was just simply resting in the arms of someone that he trusted, and they dropped him. His entire life changed in an instant. And I wonder how many people are still trying to recover from something they didn't create. How many young people are carrying burdens they don't even have the words to explain? How many people in this sanctuary and online have spent years blaming themselves for something they never caused? How many people have been impacted by something because somebody dropped you? Is there somebody here that knows what it feels like to be dropped by somebody? Can I just see if you know what it feels like to be dropped? Because if somebody knows what it feels like to be dropped by a relationship that shattered your heart, dropped by abuse, dropped by neglect, dropped by rejection, dropped by betrayal, dropped by life, and somebody is carrying wounds that happened before we were even old enough to understand what was happening. Years later, we're still living with the consequences of being dropped when it wasn't even our fault. We're struggling with a confidence. We're struggling with trust issues. And we're still struggling with memories and stuff from years ago. Not because we're weak. Not because we don't love God and trust God. But because somebody we trusted dropped us. And the danger here is if you're not careful, you can become so identified with the wound that you forget who you were before the wound. You can become so comfortable with surviving that you stop expecting healing and restoration. You can become so accustomed to living in Lodebar that you forget that you were born for the palace. And eventually you reach a place where you say, forget it. You say, forget it, because I almost stopped here. I could have had a 4.0, but you don't know what drove me to Lodebar. I could have started my business a long time ago, but you don't know what drove me to Lodebar. I could have been so much further in my life. I could have been further in my career, but you don't know what drove me to Lodebar. I could have loved somebody again, but that last relationship broke my heart so bad, and you don't know what drove me to Lodebar. But one of the mistakes that we often make is we spend so much time talking about what people became and what people did, and we rarely stop to even care enough to ask why. Why is they so angry? Why does she keep pushing people away? Why is she always struggling? Why are those kids so bad and always acting out? Why do they always smile in public but cry in private? Why? 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 I don't know why. Why? And if we ever get to the place that we care enough to ask why, you might get the answer. And you'll often discover there was a wound. And many of our deepest wounds didn't begin with us. They began with a chapter we didn't choose. They began in homes we didn't build. They began in relationships we didn't create. They began when somebody who was supposed to hold us and held us close, they dropped us. And that's a part of my assignment today. Because I came to tell somebody, no matter how old you are, if you've been living in Lodebar, if you were the person who got dropped, lean in. You can't stop here. If there's a young person near you, can you lean over and look at them and just tell them, I know it gets hard sometimes, but you can't stop here. Tell them, I know you have to cry sometimes, but you can't stop here. Now turn to somebody else and say, I know life ain't dealt the best cards for you, but you can't stop here. You can't stop. Not right here. That leads us to the central question for today's message. What does the king do for people who almost stopped? What does the king do for people who almost stopped? Well, we see Revelation 1 in 2 Samuel 9 and 3. He says, then the king said, is there not still someone of the house of Saul whom I can show kindness of God? And Ziba said to the king, there is still a son of Jonathan who is lame in his feet. Well, he shows us the first revelation that the text gives us, that the king remembers what life forgot. The king remembers what life forgot. Now notice, David asked this. The question is remarkable because David is finally living in a season God promised him for years. The battle is over. The enemies have been defeated. The kingdom has been established, and he finally has some peace. Yet, with everything that's competing with his attention, David still has room in his heart to remember someone that everybody else had forgotten. See, years had passed. The palace had moved on. The kingdom had moved on. History had moved on, but David had not moved on from his promise. And the text tells us why. David was not looking for talent or influence. David was not looking for someone to strengthen his administration, but he was looking for someone because of a covenant that he had made years earlier with his best friend Jonathan. See, Jonathan told David earlier in the text that if the Lord ever bless you to become king, please don't forget my family. At this time, Jonathan was gone. Saul was gone. The political landscape had changed. But David refused to let the promise die because simply time had passed. That means Mephibosheth wasn't about to receive kindness because of something amazing he had done. He was about to receive kindness because of the promise that David had made with his father. And that's shouting news right there, because God's faithfulness has never depended on our perfection. It has always depended on his promise. And let me tell you what the enemy wants you to believe. He wants you to believe that because you've been in Lodebar so long, God has moved on. He wants you to believe that because you have made several mistakes, or you didn't make mistakes, but you're still going through, that God has changed his mind about you. He wants you to believe that because life dropped you, God let you there. But the text destroys that lie. Notice David never asked, is there anyone worthy? The text never asks, is there anyone useful? The text never asks, is there anyone that have it all together? He simply asks, is there someone there? And Beulah, that blessed me so much, because there has been seasons in my own life where I wasn't asking God for another opportunity. I was just trying to survive. I wasn't chasing success. I was just trying to get enough strength to get to the next day. And maybe somebody can relate that you've been in seasons where you were not thriving. You were just surviving. You were not building dreams. You were paying bills. You were not making a 5-year plan. You was trying to make it to Friday. And yet, God never forgot you. See, people may have forgotten you, but God didn't. People may have forgotten your gift, but God didn't. People may have forgotten your dreams, but God didn't. People may have stopped believing in you, and people may have started looking at your Lodebar season and assumed that your story was over, but guess what? God didn't. And the very fact that you're still breathing, the fact that you're still worshiping, the fact that you're still able to believe is evidence that God is still working, God is still faithful, and God has not forgotten your name. The chapter where you almost stopped was not strong enough to finish you. Oh, the king remembers what life forgot. But that's not the only thing. What does the king do for people who almost stopped? We see the second revelation is that the king comes looking for those who cannot find their own way back. The king comes looking for those who can't find their own way back. We see in 2 Samuel chapter 9, verse 4 and 5. So the king said to him, where is he? Where is he? And Ziba said to the king, indeed, he is in the house of Machir, the son of Amiel, and in Lodebar. The king David sent him and told him to bring him from Lodebar. The king remembered him. But remembering was not enough. David wanted to do more than remembered him. You remember, he made a promise. He made a covenant. He wanted to bring him home. That's why David asked that question, where is he? Not what happened to him. Not can he still walk, not can he be useful, but where is he? See, I love that question Because David isn't asking where Mephibosheth is because he had forgotten him. He's asking him because he's about to go get him. Because I love my grandmama, I pull out my iPhone, I go to the app, the Uber Eats thing, I look for it. Then I place the order for some fried catfish and some okra and some hush puppies and some corn on a cob. I got it memorized now, y'all. Then I start tracking it on my app. And then it says, your order has been confirmed. Well, then a few minutes later, then it says, your driver is on the way. Then a few minutes later, it says, your order is arriving soon. And every once in a while, something happens. After I get a notification, it says your food has been delivered. But somehow the food at times go to the wrong address. Then my grandmama, my dear, from Decatur, she called me in Washington, D.C. and say, boy, I've been waiting for a long time. Where is my fish? I never got it. Now she's frustrated because she don't have her JJ's fish after waiting an hour. And I'm frustrated because what I paid for and what belonged to her never ended up. And it ended up somewhere where it was not supposed to be. Church, watch this shout. God's grace has never been delivered to the wrong address. When David When David asked, where is he? Ziba didn't hesitate. Ziba didn't say, I'm not sure. He didn't say, I don't know. What he said, he's in the house of Makar. He's in Lodebar. See, the address was specific. See, the house was specific. The location was specific. See, now David knew exactly where Mephibosheth was. And can I tell you something? God knows exactly where you are. And watch this, I ain't just talking about your physical location and your house address. I'm talking about your emotional address. He knows where your heart's been broken. He knows where you lost your confidence. He knows when your family fell apart. He knows when the anxiety comes. He knows. He knows your Lodebar. David never says, tell him to find his way back. David never says, tell him to go clean himself up first. David never says, when he gets stronger, I'll receive him. What he said, go get him. He said, go get him. The King James Version says he fetched for him. In other words, go get him. And that's grace. See, because grace always makes the first move. Before Mephibosheth ever started looking for the king was already looking for him. Before you ever reached for God, God had already reached for you. And before you ever called his name, he already knew your name. See, that's why the Apostle Paul could write, while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. God didn't wait till we had our lives together before he loved us. God didn't wait until we stopped struggling before he started helping us. He did not wait for us to figure it out. He loved us even while we're in our Lodebar. Now watch this. A few minutes ago, we all shouted a minute ago because we said, I'm still here. We shouted about being still here. But can I tell you why we're still here? We're still here not because we're still so strong, not because we got it all together, not that we haven't struggled. We're still here because the King has sent for you. The enemy didn't win because the king sent for you. The reason your addiction didn't last because the king sent for you. The reason you survived the worst season of your life because the king sent for you. The reason you was able to make it when you were stressing because you were broke, but you ain't missed a bill, you ain't missed a meal because the king sent for you. And watch this. And if the king sent for you, that means the king knows how to find you. And that means your pain has never been beyond his reach. Your tears has never been beyond his reach. Your trauma has never been beyond his reach. Can I get about 50 people to jump up and stand up and tell the Lord, thank you, because the king has sent for you. Oh, he say, look beyond my faults, and he saw my needs. Is there anybody that can say the king has sent for me? King sent for you. He kept me when I couldn't keep myself. He carried me when I couldn't carry myself. He loved me when I couldn't love myself. He found me when I couldn't find myself. He found me in my Lodebar. Ooh, the king, the king, the king, he sent for you. The king is coming for you. The king is coming to grab somebody out of your Lodebar. Somebody said you can't. Stop. Here. You can't. You can't. You can't. Stop. Here. The king is coming. Somebody look at somebody and say the king is coming for you. Tell somebody else the king is coming for you. 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 The king is coming. The king, I see the king coming. And guess what? When the king gets there, you know what he's going to do? He's going to step in the middle of your situation. That's what he's going to do. And when he get in your situation, he's going to the king is coming. Is there anybody can say, Lord, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for helping me. Thank you for blessing me. Oh, I was in a dark place. I was in Lodebar, but the king. The king is coming. He's coming for somebody. And somebody about to come out of Lodebar because the king is coming. Somebody coming out of that thing because the king is coming for you. The king is coming for you. He's coming to bless you. He's coming to help you. The king comes back for those. He comes back for those that can't find their own way back. I wonder what you gonna do when the king gets here. How you gonna prepare for the king? Can anybody give the king your greatest praise? Give the king your best praise. Give the king. Oh, it's something else that the king do for people that almost stop. There's something else. The king restores your place. We see in verse 7, he says, do not fear, for I will surely show you kindness for Jonathan, your father's sake. And I will restore all of the land of Saul, your grandfather. And you shall eat bread at my table continually. We've already discovered that the king remembers what life forgot. We've already discovered that the king come looking for those who can't find their own way back. But the story doesn't end there. When Mephibosheth arrives to the palace, the greatest miracle is still ahead. Hope you got your seatbelts. When Mephibosheth stands before the king, David, imagine what was going through his head. He's the grandson of the former king. He's been hiding for years in Lodebar, and in his mind, this meeting probably means ending in judgment. But the first words out of David's mouth is, "Do not fear." King James Version says, "Fear not." And somebody need to hear those words. Fear not, because the king has not called you to condemn you. He called you to restore you. Now, then David says something remarkable. He says, "I will restore to you all the land of Saul, your grandfather." Now, don't miss that word, because we already said it, restore. When David says restore, he said, "I will restore." Watch this. He also said, when he says, "I will restore," he's talking about the land, but he's also doing much more than restoring property. The Old Testament, says land represented inheritance. Inheritance represented identity. Identity represented belonging. So when David restores his inheritance, he's restoring his identity. He's restoring what life convinced him that he had lost forever. And what the biblical restoration looks like, restoration is more than about getting things back, because some things I might not want back. But restoration is about getting your place back. It's about becoming who God created you to be. God isn't trying to take you back to who you were before you got dropped, but he's restoring you. He's restoring you to go back to the person that he knew that you could become. He's restoring the potential that he had. So, and somebody needs to hear that, because the enemy has spent years trying to convince somebody that life dropped you and you lost your place. The text says otherwise. The text says you still have purpose. The text says you still have a calling. You still have a destiny. You still have an assignment. You still have a future. You still belong. But here's what really blessed me, because the greatest miracle wasn't just the land. The greatest miracle to me was the table. In verse 13, so Mephibosheth dwelt in Jerusalem, for he ate continually at the king's table, and he was lame in both his feet. See, in the ancient world, the king's table was a place of honor. The king's table was a place of fellowship. The king's table was a place of covenant. See, not everybody can sit at the king's table. To be invited to the king's table means you belong in the king's presence. Think about that for a moment. For years, Lodebar told Mephibosheth who he was. His limp told him who he was. His circumstances told Mephibosheth who he was. His trauma told him, he's limping, who he was. But watch this. After one encounter with the king, his entire location changed without denying his scars. See, David never healed his feet, but he restored his future. Sometimes God doesn't erase every scar, but sometimes he gives your scars a new story. Mephibosheth still walked with a limp. Those scars remained, that limp remained, those past memories had remained, but Lodebar was no longer his home. He no longer lived as a forgotten man. He sat at the king's table with his crippled feet that disappeared underneath the table, and everybody at the table looked the same. Nobody could see the limp. See, church, sometimes God doesn't immediately remove what happens, but he changed where you sit. He changed whose table you're sitting at. He changed your identity. He changed your future. He changed your community. He changed your perspective. He still had a limp. He still had a limp. He still had a limp, but he limped right on into the palace. He limped into the palace. Can everybody stand up for a minute? I want everybody to look at the person next to them and look at them closely. Look at them and tell them, this is your season where you're about to be restored. Tell them, you've been in Lodebar too long, and the king is about to restore everything that the enemy stole from you. Tell them, this is your season where everything is coming back. Pressed down, right it over, shaking together. Woo! Now, I want you to turn to the next neighbor. Tell them, you should have never sat next to me today. Because the worship that I'm about to give God is not for what I want. The worship that I'm about to give God is not for cars, clothes, or money. The worship that I'm about to give God is for your kids' future. The worship that I'm about to give God for you is for your kids to come out of Lodebar. The worship that I'm about to give God is for you to come out of Lodebar. I need somebody to worship him for a minute. Worship him for a minute. Worship him as he's taking you out of Lodebar. Worship him like he's taking you out of Lodebar. Worship him like he's taking you out of Lodebar. Worship him like he's taking you out of Lodebar. Worship him like he's giving you your future back. Worship him like he's giving you your assignment back. Worship him like he's giving you your destiny back. Worship him. You can't stop here. You can't stop here. You can't stop here. I need somebody to say that out loud. Stop here. You can't stop here. Woo. At the beginning of the sermon, I told you that my student told me at his graduation that I think this just might be my life. He felt forgotten. He had been silent. He had been living in Lodebar. But the king interrupted everything. He interrupted everything with that question, where is he? Where is he? Ziba said, he's in Lodebar. The king said, go get him. Can you imagine Mephibosheth hearing the footsteps outside of his house in Lodebar, thinking, who is that? Nobody comes to Lodebar. Then he gets a knock. I've come from the king. I've come from the king. Beulah Missionary Baptist Church. Today, I've come from the king. He sent me here this morning to tell you, you can't stop here because he's not done with you yet. You can't stop here because there's more to your story. There's more to your story. You can't stop here. So my question, where is he? Where is he? I'm talking about the one who got dropped and never recovered. Where is he? I'm talking about the one who posts on Instagram smiling but cries yourself to sleep at night. Where is he? I'm talking about the one who feels like nobody sees me while I'm falling apart. Where is he? I'm talking about the one that you buried your mama, you buried your daddy, and things ain't just been the same. Where is he? I'm talking to the one who encourages everybody else. Who encourages everybody else and said, who's going to encourage me? Where is he? If you've been living in Lodebar, I need you to come meet me at this altar right now. I need you to just meet me at the altar right now. But if you lived in Lodebar and you are tired because you almost stopped, I just need you to come meet me right here at the altar. Where is he? Wherever you are, in the balcony, on the side, just meet me. Where is he? I'm tired of running on empty. My cup is empty. Where is he? Depression and anxiety got the best of me. Where is he? It wasn't even my fault, and I'm dealing with all of this. Where is he? Life has hit me so hard, and it has crippled me in ways that I can't even talk about. I need you to come to the altar. Where is he? Somebody's heart has been broken for a very long time. Somebody's heart's been broken for a very long time, and you can't get past it. Years later, where is he? I don't even know what my future is like. I don't even know my own identity. I'm confused. Where is he? I just graduated, but I'm terrified for next steps. Where is he? Where is he? So much in life has happened that I don't even know my own purpose. Where is he? Life has been so hard. It's been times I even thought about taking my own life. I need you at this altar. Where is he? Let me tell you something. This altar right here, this is not only an altar. This is the king's table. This is the king's table. And the king is inviting you to his table. The king is inviting you to his table. He's going to put whatever your Lodebar season underneath the table. I need you at the altar. Where is he? Where is he? Watch this. You can't stop here. And if you've thought about stopping, I need you at the altar. Come, I see you coming. Where is he? Life has dropped you. And you think you're standing by yourself. You think nobody understands you. You think nobody cares. You think nobody loves you. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Well, guess what? king knows exactly what you are, right? Because the king came looking for you. Where is he? Mephibosheth, he lived in Lodebar for a long time. He carried it. He hid it. He survived in it. And today, I'm going to tell you, you don't have to carry it anymore. Whatever your Lodebar has been, everybody has been in Lodebar. Whatever your Lodebar has been, today is the last day that Lodebar gets to define your identity. You may have been dropped. You may have been dropped. You may have been dropped by somebody that you thought just loved you and they dropped you. But today is the last day, baby. We're not gonna carry this no more. Where is he? This chapter don't get to tell you who you are. This chapter don't get to tell you who you are. So I didn't just bring you up here so I can just pray for you. I brought you up here to give you an opportunity to release your Lodebar, release your shame, release your guilt, release your pain, release your bitterness, release. Because there's so much more. You have a future. You got a future. You got a future. You got a future. The king is coming. The king is coming for you. The king is coming for you. The king is coming for you. The king is coming. The king is coming. The king is coming. The king. I need everybody in the room with your hands lifted, worshiping God, knowing there is more for your story. There's so much more that God has for you. You can't stop here. I don't care how bad it is. You can't stop here. I don't care what it looks like, what may come in the future, but I guess what? You're not alone, because the king know where you at, baby. The king know how to find you. The king is coming for you. The king is coming for you, and he got a seat right for you at his table. He ain't done. 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 There's so much more. There's so much more. If you gotta cry, cry. If you gotta lay, lay. But everybody needs to worship for a minute. Everybody hands up worshiping. Father God, we thank you. We thank you. We thank you. Because even when we got dropped, and it wasn't even our fault, and we had to go to Lodebar, But you loved us so much that you remembered us. You remembered us, and we ain't by ourselves. And even when we don't remember you, Lord, you come find us when we can't find our own way back. So we say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Lord, somebody has been in Lodebar for a long time. Lord, somebody has been hurting for a long time. Lord, somebody has been jobless for a long time. Somebody has been homeless. Somebody has been heartbroken. Somebody lost something a long time ago, and they've allowed it to define their identity because they were stuck in Lodebar. But we're grateful that you loved us so much. You loved us so much that you just reminded us that we don't have to stay there, and the devil ain't got no power over here. The devil is defeated. He can't have our kids. He can't have our people. He loves us so much. The devil is defeated. We coming out of Lodebar today. 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 We will not live here anymore because there's so much more to the story. So we ask right now, Father God, that you step in and you heal broken hearts, Lord. You heal broken hearts right now, Father God. And you show them that when they get down, you will swoop in and cover them. You will pick them up and you'll carry them, and guess what? You won't even drop them. There's so much more to our stories. And we love you, Lord, and we honor you, Lord, for giving us this moment, for giving us this reminder, giving us we don't have to stay in Lodebar because you have so much more for our futures. You got so much more for our assignment. You got so much more for our destiny. And as we close this prayer, we take this moment and we worship you. And we open our mouths saying, thank you, Lord. We open our mouths saying, hallelujah. We open our mouths saying, we can't stop here. You can't stop here. You can't stop here. Can we cry out loud telling Jesus thank you? Tell Jesus thank you. Thank you, Jesus. He's taking us out of Lodebar. Thank you. There's more to your story. As you go back to your seat, I want you to hug somebody, embrace somebody, and tell them you can't stop here. You tell them you can't stop here. There's so much more for you. There's so much more. There's so much more. There's so much more. There's so much more.